Hey guys, Grumpy here again. What I got going on today is I've been working on a rifle for a guy, and I'm down to the sanding and finishing part, and I wanted to kind of show you basically how I do that. Now this stock, it's walnut, but you finish it like any other maple stock or whatever. The first thing I did was sand it first of all with 150 grit paper on a little sander like this, little vibrating one, and then I did a quick stain on it, and I'll let you see that. So I've got a nice dark stain on it, and now what I'm going to do is go back with the mouse sander and 220 grit paper on it, and this will help me see where any spots are I need to sand a little better. And if I need to, I can go in and hand sand where our little spots might be. But this mouse sander is pretty cool. It works really great. And it's going to make a lot of noise, of course, so hold your ears and let's see what happens. Looking pretty good. Dust this off a little bit, and I can see from the grain that there's really no file marks, no rasp marks left, so this might be pretty good. What I'll do is I'll do the whole stock this way, and you want to make sure that you're not rounding off any corners, especially around the lock mortise, around the edges, around the ramrod channel. You don't want to take off any more than you have to, and that's the nice thing about the mouse sander. It's pretty forgiving, and with the finer grit paper like the 220, you're going to get a nice smooth finish. And I'll probably do a second coat of stain on this to make sure I got everything done right, and check it very closely with, I even put on the optivisors and look at the grain structure better as I'm working on it, so I can see any variations in the grain and where there might be a file mark or even a sanding mark left over. You want to stock nice and smooth, because when you put on a finish over the stain, every imperfection is going to show up. So you want to make sure you got all those done and out of the way before you do your final finish. Alright, I'm going to turn off here. I'm going to sand this down, and we'll be back in just a moment and see how it looks when it's all sanded with the 220 grit mouse. Alright, hang on. Something I want to add here too is that when you're working walnut and a lot of other woods too, they are carcinogenic, which means it's not a good thing to ingest and breathe in the dust. So make sure you got a good respirator. I put on an apron so that it keeps it off my clothes and I'm not tracking it all over the house. And you know, I've got glasses, so not a big deal, but eye problems are not the big thing here. It's breathing in the dust, so be cautious. Alright, got the stock sanded now, and it's actually looking pretty good. I'm to that point where I think that I'm about ready to put the final finish on, and well, the final stain, because I am going to stain this a little bit darker than what it is. But you can look at this and see the color's pretty good. I don't see any dark spaces where there's any question of rasp or file marks on it. He wanted a very plain gun, so there's no carving. I'm going to put a little bit of engraving on it for him. And it's got a 2-piece metal patch box. It's kind of an English style rifle, but it's been dressed up and Americanized a little bit. But it's looking pretty good. And like I said, I'm just going to probably give it a light coat of some tan stain and let that dry and then start putting the finish on. And while all that's drying in between coats, I will be polishing brass, engraving, and finishing up the barrel and the lock and all that. So still a bit to do, but it's getting there. But I just wanted to share some of that. And another thing I wanted to talk about too is that I don't know if you've ever had a stock in your vise where it suddenly slipped, fell down, and hit the bars underneath. And now you got a big old dent to contend with. And yeah, you can steam some of that out, but not always. So what I would suggest you make is simply a little piece of wood. I just glued up one vise here and put 2 notches in there that fit over top of the 2 rails in the bottom of my vise, and then patted it with a piece of soft leather I just glued on. And with that in place now, it'll keep the stock from falling. If it does slip, it simply hits that block of wood and doesn't go down, hitting the metal and denting it up to where you can't fix it very easily. Just a little tip. And when I get ready to put finish on and do the antiquing, I'll come back and we'll talk some more about that. But in the meantime, you guys have a good day, and hope you learned a little something here. It's not much, but every little bit I can share, I'll be glad to do. You guys take care. Bye.